Remember when dinner meant gathering around the avocado green kitchen table while Mom served something bubbling from her Corningware? The 1970s gave us bold flavors, creative shortcuts, and dishes that made every meal feel like an event. Today, we're exploring 25 classic dinners from that groovy decade that deserve another spot on your table. Let's start with chicken cordon bleu. This elegant dish transformed ordinary chicken breasts into something special by stuffing them with ham and Swiss cheese, coating them in breadcrumbs, and baking until golden. The name sounded fancy enough to impress dinner guests, but it was simple enough for a Tuesday night. Most home cooks used deli ham and pre-sliced Swiss, pounding the chicken thin with a meat mallet that every kitchen had back then. The finished dish often came with a creamy white wine sauce ladled over the top. Restaurants charged premium prices for this continental classic, but smart home cooks discovered they could make it for a fraction of the cost. By the 1980s, frozen versions appeared in supermarkets, though they never matched the homemade original. Today's air fryers could give this retro favorite a healthier comeback. Hamburger Helper Night. Every 1970s family knew the jingle and the helping hand logo that promised a complete dinner from one box and 1 pound of ground beef. Betty Crocker introduced this time saver in 1971, and within months, exhausted parents everywhere were stirring up beef stroganoff, cheeseburger macaroni, and lasagna flavors. At just 65 cents a box, it stretched a pound of meat to feed a family of 5. The dried pasta, powdered sauce, and seasonings came together in under 30 minutes using just one skillet. Kids actually requested it for dinner, especially the cheeseburger macaroni that tasted like a Big Mac in pasta form. Working mothers embraced it as liberation from complicated recipes. The product line exploded to over 40 varieties by decade's end. While it's still on shelves today, nothing matches the nostalgia of that orange box saving dinner in 1976. Apricot Russian chicken. This sticky sweet sensation swept through suburban kitchens after appearing in community cookbooks nationwide. The magic formula was embarrassingly simple: apricot preserves, Russian dressing, and a packet of Lipton onion soup mixed together and poured over chicken pieces. That's right, just 3 ingredients created a dinner that had neighbors begging for the recipe. The chicken emerged from the oven, glazed in a tangy sweet coating that caramelized around the edges. Served over rice to catch every drop of that addictive sauce, it became the go-to dish for potlucks and church suppers. Some variations added a can of whole cranberry sauce for the holidays. The combination sounds bizarre today, but in the 1970s, this was sophisticated cooking. Food historians trace it to the Jewish American community before it went mainstream. Modern cooks who try it are shocked by how good something so simple can taste. Beef fondue bourguignon. Nothing said sophisticated dinner party quite like gathering around a fondue pot filled with bubbling oil to cook your own steak. This Swiss import required special equipment that newlyweds registered for and received as wedding gifts throughout the decade. Hosts cubed sirloin or tenderloin into bite-sized pieces, while guests speared meat with long forks and cooked it to their preference. The real stars were the accompaniments: béarnaise, horseradish cream, mushroom sauce, and garlic butter arranged in small bowls. Fondue sets cost around $30 in 1975, equivalent to $150 today, making them investment pieces. The social aspect made dinner last for hours as people chatted between bites. Safety concerns arose after several tablecloth fires and burned tongues. By 1980, electric fondue pots replaced the dangerous sterno flames. The ritual of fondue dining disappeared as quickly as it arrived, leaving millions of unused pots in basement storage. Quiche, Lorraine. Real men might not have eaten quiche according to that 1982 book, but in the 1970s, this French egg custard pie was the height of sophistication. Bacon and Swiss cheese filled a buttery pie crust with a silky egg custard that worked for brunch, lunch, or dinner. Julia Child taught Americans the proper technique on public television, emphasizing the importance of blind baking the crust. Home cooks discovered that leftover ham, vegetables, or whatever lurked in the refrigerator could substitute for traditional ingredients. Pillsbury pie crusts made it accessible to working families who lacked time for scratch baking. Restaurants featured it as an upscale lunch option, often served with a small salad for $3.95. The versatility meant you could serve it hot from the oven or cold at picnics. Though quiche became a punchline by the mid-1980s, this savory pie deserves respect for introducing Americans to French bistro cooking. London broil. This wasn't actually a British dish, but an American invention that turned tough flank steak into something special through marination and proper slicing. The secret was soaking the meat overnight in a mixture of soy sauce, garlic, and oil before broiling it quickly under high heat. That's right, just 5 minutes per side for a perfect medium rare that stayed juicy when sliced correctly. The diagonal cutting against the grain was crucial, transforming chewy meat into tender medallions. Supermarkets in the 1970s labeled various cuts as London broil, confusing home cooks about what they were actually buying. A 2-pound steak could feed 6 people when sliced thin and fanned on a platter. The leftovers made incredible sandwiches the next day. Budget-conscious families loved that flank steak cost half the price of better cuts. Today's sous vide cooking could revive this economical classic with foolproof results. Teriyaki beef, kebabs, backyard. Grilling reached new heights when suburban dads discovered the magic of threading marinated beef onto skewers with peppers, onions, and pineapple chunks. Kick-a-Man teriyaki sauce had just become widely available in supermarkets, making this Hawaiian-inspired dish accessible to mainland cooks. The sweet soy glaze caramelized over charcoal, creating that perfect char while keeping the meat tender. Metal skewers cost a small fortune, so most families used wooden ones soaked in water to prevent burning. The assembly line preparation made it perfect for getting kids involved in dinner. Color patterns mattered as much as taste, with perfect alternating sequences photographed for recipe cards. Some adventurous cooks added cherry tomatoes or mushrooms to their skewers. At $2.99 per pound for sirloin in 1976, this felt like restaurant dining at home. The communal grilling experience made ordinary Tuesday nights feel like celebrations. Which of these classic 1970s dinners brings back the most memories for you? Sweet and sour pork. Before authentic Chinese restaurants spread beyond major cities, Americans satisfied their Asian food cravings with this ketchup-based interpretation that bore little resemblance to actual Cantonese cuisine. The sauce combined ketchup, vinegar, sugar, and soy sauce into a glossy coating for battered pork chunks. Canned pineapple chunks were mandatory, along with green peppers and onions for that oriental touch. Le choy provided convenient shortcuts with bottled sauces and canned vegetables that made weeknight Chinese possible. The pork pieces were often coated in cornstarch and deep-fried in a Dutch oven full of Crisco. Minute rice was the only acceptable accompaniment, absorbing that tangy red sauce. Restaurant versions cost $4.95, but home cooks could recreate it for under $2. The dish disappeared as Americans discovered more authentic regional Chinese cuisines. Yet something about that sweet-tangy flavor combination still triggers powerful nostalgia for those who grew up with it. Chicken marbella. This dinner party showstopper arrived via the Silver Palette cookbook in 1979, quickly becoming the most photocopied recipe of the era. The bizarre combination of prunes, olives, capers, brown sugar, and white wine created complex flavors that seemed impossibly sophisticated. Marinating overnight was essential, allowing those unusual ingredients to transform ordinary chicken into something magical. The purple-brown color might have looked unappetizing, but one bite converted skeptics into believers. Hosts loved that they could prepare it entirely ahead and just pop it in the oven when guests arrived. The recipe served 8 generously, perfect for those competitive dinner parties where cooking skills were social currency. At upscale food shops, the prepared ingredients cost nearly $20, making this a special occasion dish. The Silver Palette ladies built an empire on this recipe alone. Modern Mediterranean cuisine owes a debt to this gateway dish that taught Americans about sweet savory combinations. Crock-pot pot roast. That avocado green or harvest gold slow cooker transformed tough chuck roast into fork-tender comfort using nothing but thyme and a packet of Lipton onion soup mix. Working mothers could throw everything in before leaving for work and return to a house filled with savory aromas. The standard formula never varied. Meat on bottom, soup mix sprinkled over, carrots and potatoes arranged around, and a cup of water added. 8 hours later, magic had happened inside that ceramic crock. The vegetables absorbed the beefy flavors while the meat fell apart at the touch of a fork. Generic cream of mushroom soup sometimes joined the party for extra richness. At $1.29 per pound, for chuck roast in 1974, this fed a family affordably. The one-pot cleanup made it even more appealing for exhausted parents. Today's Instant Pot might be faster, but it can't replicate that all-day anticipation. Swiss steak. This Depression-era survivor enjoyed a renaissance in the 1970s when families rediscovered the economy of cube, steak pounded tender and braised in tomato sauce. The name had nothing to do with Switzerland but referred to the Swissing technique of tenderizing meat with a textured mallet. Every supermarket sold pre-tenderized cube steak for about 89 cents per pound, complete with those distinctive cube-shaped indentations. The meat was dredged in seasoned flour, browned in a skillet, then simmered with canned tomatoes, onions, and bell peppers until falling apart. Some recipes added Worcestershire sauce or a bay leaf for complexity. Served over mashed potatoes or rice, it delivered comfort food satisfaction on a tight budget. The long, slow cooking made even tough meat surrender to tenderness. Electric skillets were perfect for this dish, maintaining steady heat for hours. While cube steak seems humble today, this dish kept families fed during economic uncertainty. Stuffed green peppers. These edible bowls filled with seasoned ground beef and rice became weeknight staples when bell peppers were abundant and cheap in summer. The filling combined cooked rice with browned hamburger, onions, and whatever else needed using up, all bound with tomato sauce. Topped with a sprinkle of cheese, they baked until the peppers softened but still held their shape. The trick was parboiling the peppers first, something not all recipes mentioned, leading to many crunchy failures. Thrifty cooks saved the pepper tops to chop and add to the filling, wasting nothing. At 10 cents per pepper in season, this stretched a pound of meat to serve 6. Some families preferred them with tomato soup poured over the top, Campbell's casserole style. The presentation impressed children who loved having their own individual pepper bowl. Modern versions might use quinoa or turkey, but the original beef and white rice combination remains unmatched. Porcupine meatballs. These whimsical meatballs got their name from rice grains that stuck out like quills after cooking, delighting children who might otherwise reject dinner. Raw rice mixed directly into the ground, beef mixture expanded during simmering, creating the signature spiky appearance. The meatballs simmered in tomato sauce, usually made from tomato soup diluted with water for that distinctly 1970s flavor. No browning was required. They went straight from mixing bowl to simmering sauce. The rice absorbed flavors while cooking, making each bite a perfect combination of meat, grain, and sauce. Campbell's actually printed the recipe on soup cans, ensuring it spread across America. Some versions added Worcestershire sauce or dried herbs for sophistication. The one-pot nature meant less cleanup on busy weeknights. At church potlucks, these always disappeared first, especially when made in the newfangled electric skillet. Though simple, they delivered comfort and whimsy in equal measure. No peak chicken and rice. The name alone told you everything. Mix it, cover it, don't peek for 90 minutes, and dinner would be perfect. This foolproof casserole combined raw rice, chicken pieces, and cream of mushroom soup with enough liquid to steam everything to perfection. The crucial rule was keeping the lid on, as peaking released steam and resulted in crunchy rice. Lipton onion soup mix often joined the party because everything in the 1970s seemed to include it. The chicken skin crisped on top, while the rice below absorbed all those savory juices. One casserole dish, no stirring, no checking, just faith in the process. It was perfect for new brides who hadn't mastered timing multiple dishes. The oven temperature stayed low, around 325 degrees, making overcooking nearly impossible. Variations included adding frozen peas in the last 20 minutes or using brown rice for health-conscious families. This dish proved that sometimes the best cooking means doing absolutely nothing. Share your favorite convenience dish from the 1970s that you still make today in the comments below. Shrimp scampi. When Red Lobster introduced America to this garlicky, buttery indulgence, home cooks immediately tried recreating it using frozen shrimp from the supermarket. The simple preparation, sautéing shrimp in butter with garlic, white wine, and lemon, felt achievable even for novice cooks. That's right. Just 5 minutes of cooking transformed gray crustaceans into restaurant-quality elegance. The key was using more butter and garlic than seemed reasonable, then tossing with hot pasta or sopping with crusty bread. Frozen shrimp bags proclaimed 2630 count, teaching Americans about shrimp sizing for the first time. At $4.99 per pound for frozen shrimp, this was special occasion cooking for most families. Some recipes added a touch of cream or tomatoes, though purists insisted on the classic version. The dish introduced landlocked Americans to seafood beyond fish sticks and tuna. Today's easy peel shrimp would have seemed miraculous to 1970s cooks who spent ages deveining. Taco casserole. This Tex-Mex mashup combined America's growing love for tacos with the convenience of one-dish baking, creating a hybrid that appeared at every potluck. Seasoned ground beef layered with cheese, olives, and crushed corn chips, then baked until bubbly and golden. The bottom layer often included refried beans or Spanish rice from a box mix. Ortega taco sauce, a new supermarket staple, provided authentic flavor without any actual spice. The genius was those corn chips on top that somehow stayed crunchy despite the moisture below. Sour cream and shredded lettuce were added after baking, making it a complete meal. Old El Paso taco seasoning packets eliminated guesswork about spicing. Some versions included a layer of biscuit batter that rose through the filling while baking. At $3 to feed 8 people, this became the go-to dish for feeding crowds. The leftovers reheated perfectly, though the chips needed refreshing. Beef and broccoli stir-fry. Armed with electric woks and bottles of la choy sauce, suburban cooks attempted Asian cuisine with varying degrees of success. The bottled brown sauce promised restaurant-style results, though it contained enough sodium to preserve meat indefinitely. Slicing beef against the grain was crucial, a technique many learned through trial and error. Frozen broccoli florets saved prep time, though they released water that diluted the sauce. The electric wok that everyone received as wedding gifts never got hot enough for proper wok hay. Still, families felt worldly eating Chinese food on random Wednesdays. Cashews or water chestnuts added crunch for those feeling adventurous. La choy, crispy noodles served alongside, made everything feel authentic. The complete meal came together in 15 minutes, revolutionary for home cooking. Today's YouTube tutorials would have saved many 1970s dinners from tough meat and mushy vegetables. Baked ziti with cottage cheese. Before ricotta became widely available, creative cooks substituted cottage cheese in their Italian-American casseroles, creating a uniquely 1970s version. The cottage cheese, mixed with eggs and parmesan, created a creamy layer between the pasta and sauce. Ragu, or prego from a jar, was perfectly acceptable, especially when doctored with dried oregano and garlic powder. The whole assembly could be made ahead and refrigerated, perfect for working mothers. Mozzarella cheese on top bubbled and browned under the broiler for those Instagram-worthy cheese pulls before Instagram existed. Some families added crumbled Italian sausage or sliced pepperoni for a meat lover's version. The casserole fed a crowd for under $5, making it potluck gold. Leftovers improved overnight as flavors melded together. The cottage cheese actually provided more protein than ricotta, though no one talked about macros back then. This adaptation proved that authenticity mattered less than feeding your family something delicious. Veal parmigiana. This Italian-American classic let home cooks recreate their favorite restaurant dish using thin veal cutlets from the supermarket butcher. The breading station, flour, beaten eggs, seasoned breadcrumbs, turned the kitchen counter into an assembly line. Progresso breadcrumbs were the gold standard, though some rebels used crushed cornflakes for extra crunch. The cutlets were pounded thin with that trusty meat mallet until nearly translucent. Quick frying in olive oil, or Wesson, let's be honest, created the golden crust before the oven finished the job. Topped with mozzarella and marinara, then baked until bubbly, it delivered restaurant quality at home. Veal cost significantly more than chicken, making this a special occasion dish. The leftovers made incredible sandwiches on Italian bread. Some families substituted chicken or even eggplant when veal prices soared. This dish taught Americans that Italian cooking meant more than just spaghetti and meatballs. Duck à l'orange. Nothing announced fancy dinner party quite like serving duck with orange sauce, even if most cooks had never eaten it before attempting it. Frozen ducklings appeared in supermarket freezers, complete with cooking instructions that rarely mentioned the smoke-filled kitchen that would result. The orange sauce combined orange juice concentrate with Grand Marnier if you were showing off, or just more juice if not. That's right. The secret was often just reduced orange juice with some cornstarch for thickening. The duck fat rendered during roasting was liquid gold, saved for roasting potatoes later. Pricking the skin all over helped release fat, but required dedication and bandaged fingers. The final presentation with orange slices and watercress looked like magazine photographs. At $8 for a whole duck, this was investment cooking. Julia Child's technique of turning the duck multiple times seemed impossibly fussy. Most attempts resulted in overcooked duck swimming in greasy sauce, but everyone pretended it was delicious. Chicken paprikash. This Hungarian comfort food found its way to American tables via church cookbook recipes that specified real Hungarian paprika, whatever that meant. The chicken, braised in a sour cream sauce, tinted coral pink from generous paprika additions. Sweet paprika from the spice aisle worked fine, though some hunted for hot paprika at specialty shops. The sauce required tempering sour cream with hot liquid to prevent curdling, a technique that ruined many first attempts. Served over wide egg noodles with butter, it delivered old-world comfort. Some recipes included bell peppers or tomatoes, though purists insisted on chicken, onions, and paprika only. The dish reheated beautifully, actually improving overnight as flavors melded. At ethnic festivals, this outsold everything else at food booths. Green beans or cucumber salad provided the traditional accompaniments. The affordability of chicken thighs made this accessible comfort food. This gateway dish introduced Americans to the possibilities of paprika beyond deviled eggs. Hobo foil packet dinners. Whether camping or just pretending in the backyard, these individual foil packet meals made everyone feel like an adventurer. Ground beef patties, sliced potatoes, carrots, and onions were sealed in aluminum foil with butter and seasonings. Each person could customize their packet, adding corn, green beans, or whatever vegetables they'd actually eat. The packets went directly on hot coals or in a 400-degree oven for about 45 minutes. Opening the steaming packets at the table created dramatic presentation and prevented burned fingers. The vegetables steamed in meat juices while everything caramelized against the foil. Reynolds Wrap actually printed recipes on their boxes, spreading the technique nationwide. Some families made breakfast versions with eggs and hash browns. The no cleanup aspect appealed to exhausted parents. At scout camps, this was the one meal everyone could successfully cook. Modern grilling has gotten fancy, but nothing beats the simplicity of foil packet cooking. Frito pie. This Texas creation spread nationwide as Frito's corn chips became ubiquitous in supermarkets and school cafeterias. The pie was just chili ladled over Fritos and topped with shredded cheese, but somehow that combination was magic. Some versions were served right in the chip bag at football games, creating the walking taco decades before food trucks made it trendy. The school cafeteria version used government surplus cheese that melted into orange perfection. Homemade chili was ideal, but Hormel worked fine for weeknight dinners. The layered casserole version baked until bubbly with chips, miraculously maintaining some crunch. Toppings included sour cream, jalapenos, and diced onions for those wanting the full experience. At 49 cents for a large bag of Fritos, this fed a crowd cheaply. The dish appeared at every Super Bowl party and church potluck. Some regions called it Texas straw hat, or corn chip pie. This humble combination proved that comfort food doesn't require complicated recipes. Among these 25 classic dinners we've explored today, which ones deserve to make a comeback on modern tables? Tuna macaroni casserole. This economical standby transformed pantry staples into a filling dinner that every family had in their rotation. Canned tuna elbow macaroni, cream of mushroom soup and frozen peas came together under a golden layer of buttered breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips. The entire dish cost less than $2 to make in 1975, feeding 6 people generously. Some families added American cheese for extra richness or hard-boiled eggs for protein. The beauty was that everything could be kept in the pantry for emergency dinners. Preparation took 15 minutes before a 30-minute bake, perfect for busy weeknights. The leftovers packed well for school lunches, though kids might trade them away. Church. Ladies brought this to every funeral and potluck, knowing it was universally accepted. Some versions included a can of French fried onions on top for crunch. While food snobs dismissed it, this casserole kept families fed during tough times. Salisbury steak. This glorified hamburger patty swimming in brown gravy brought TV dinner nostalgia to the homemade dinner table. Ground beef mixed with breadcrumbs, egg, and onion soup. Mix formed oval patties that were pan-seared, then simmered in mushroom gravy. The name sounded fancier than hamburgers, fooling no one, but making everyone happy. The gravy usually started with cream of mushroom soup, because what 1970s recipe didn't? Served over mashed potatoes or egg noodles, it delivered comfort food perfection. The frozen TV dinner version cost 59 cents, but homemade was even cheaper and infinitely better. Some recipes added Worcestershire sauce or ketchup to the meat mixture for depth. The oval shape distinguished it from regular burgers, somehow making it dinner-worthy. Leftover gravy became tomorrow's hot sandwich spread. This humble dish proved that creative naming could elevate simple ingredients into something special. Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey through these 25 forgotten dinners from the 1970s. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with someone who remembers these classic dishes. And don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgic trips down memory lane.